black kid named Bernard with a top business acumen strategically placed his shoe-shining stall in front of the bank. He closely listens and pays attention at the conversation. As his customers are all rich and white people, he doesn't care about the little money earned by shining shoes. He works slowly so he can hear the financial secrets white people are talking about while they wait. As soon as they leave, the little boy would write it down in a notebook. All he really wants is the valuable financial knowledge. From a very young age, he knows that his lifelong dream is to become a banker. This is Texas in 1939, a place where black people are oppressed by the severe discrimination, as his father tells him sadly that his dream is impossible, but Bernard shows determination against all odds. 15 years later, Bernard moves to Los Angeles with his wife, Eunice, and children. The racial discrimination here is not as serious as in his home, so he decides to start his business here. The family of 3 has to live in a small utility room of one of his relatives. Still, Bernard promises his wife that they will move out soon. He starts as a real estate agent and searches houses for sales everywhere. In the city, through keen observation, he finds that the black community in Los Angeles is overcrowded, while the white community still has many empty houses. Black people have rental needs and financial strength, but there is no market. He's ready to capitalize this great business opportunity for real estate renting. He sees a white-owned apartment with weeds in front of the door, obviously not in a very good condition. Still, he sees the advantage of its location, which is adjacent to the black area. He goes to the owner and says that you only rented out half of the apartment, so why don't you sell it to me and I'll give you $30,000 now and another $5,000 when I rent out all the rooms. The owner doesn't want to do risky business. Bernard expresses his understanding before leaving. He suddenly glances at the owner's calendar, which shows that it is given by a local bank manager. So he goes to the bank directly, where he finds the manager. His secretary discriminates black people and refuses to introduce him to the manager. He waits for a few hours at the bank door, and when the manager comes out, he stops him immediately, saying that he knows one of his VIP clients. The business I will do will benefit him. Hope you can approve a loan for me. But the bank manager rejects him without thinking. That night, he receives a call from the owner, asking him if he used his name to try to get a loan. He has no choice but to apologize. Unexpectedly, the owner doesn't blame him. Ultimately, the owner decides to guarantee the loan for him. So he gets the first loan in his life from the bank and buys the property. An old white lady just came back home from shopping. When she sees a black man at her door, she questioned his presence with a sharp voice. Black man answers calmly about the renovation works and tells her that he's the new owner and he'll take great care of the property. Speechless old lady goes home, and suddenly after that the police came. They inquired if Bernard pretended to be the owner, and he takes out a copy of real estate certificate. The police realized and left the place. That night, Bernard returns to the apartment building. The old lady at the door sees him and immediately tells him to get out because it is not the time for renovation. Bernard still replies calmly, "I'm not a renovation worker. Now I am the owner." Few days later, she moves out angrily because she doesn't want to live in the same building with black people. As soon as the old lady leaves, Bernard rents out her house to a black lady. Bernard rented out the whole place and gave the negotiated follow-up payment to the former owner. He admires Bernard very much and offers to start a business with him. Bernard chooses the house and calculates the income, and the old owner negotiates the transaction and signs the contract with him. In front, white people won't know that they are doing business with black people, and they will split the revenue. Bernard readily agrees. The cooperation between the two goes very smoothly and they make a lot of money. Bernard also moves from an apartment block to a mansion shortly after, providing a happy life for his beloved family. The former owner who works with Bernard is old and frail. He died then. His equity in the company is inherited by his wife. This woman severely discriminates against the black people and doesn't want to cooperate with Bernard. She contemptuously offers to buy Bernard's shares at a very low price, and if he disagrees, she will sue him. In that era, when black and whites litigate, definitely the judges would tilt toward one side. Bernard is not willing to be treated so unfairly, so he decides to go to the court, but he had to find someone to testify to prove his cooperative relationship with the old owner. He thinks of the bank manager, but the bank manager has already cooperated with the widow. Extremely disappointed, Bernard stands in the bank and looks around the neat and tidy bank building, showing discriminatory systems everywhere. Just because of his skin color, he is often scorned, and when he walks into the bank thinking of this, a bold plan gradually rises up in Bernard's mind. There are 4 banks in one building, and each of them has closed doors for this man. He thought of an idea to buy this whole building. So Bernard finds Joe, another black real estate developer in Los Angeles, and tells him his plan. At first, Joe was reluctant, as the land price of that building is extremely high, and never has a black person ever bought land in LA downtown. But after discussing it for a while, Joe focuses on the point that as long as he owns owns the building, the banks inside will serve him and won't refuse to give him a loan. He believes it will work, although he's extremely wealthy, but he's also subject to white people everywhere. However, they still cannot negotiate their transactions with white people directly, so they need a white person as an agent. In this regard, Bernard already has an idea in mind, Matt, who has been helping him with renovations. This guy is an honest man. He is also very ambitious, just a little inexperienced. So Bernard and Joe set out to train Matt comprehensively, teaching him golf, high-class manners, mathematical thinking, and real estate. Matt lives up to the expectations and quickly becomes proficient at golf. While playing golf, he can calculate real estate evaluations. At the golf club, Joe arranges a meeting of Matt with the building owner. The conversation goes well and Matt gets a chance to buy the building. Rest will be negotiated. Before the negotiation, Bernard helps Matt make all the preparations. He first counts the number of lights on in the building after dark. He calculates the vacancy rate of the building and then gets the building estimate value. Through the building's annual revenue and operating costs, Bernard prepares any numbers that might be involved and asks Matt to memorize these numbers before meeting with the owner. As a result, no matter how he bluffs about his property, Matt is always one step ahead and gives out the exact number, which shocks him, and the accountant besides him is also shocked. They all think that they have encountered a math genius. In the end, Bernard gets the building that is initially priced at more than $2.4 million for just $1.56 million. From then on, whenever Bernard goes in and out of the building, the president of every bank will come to shake his hand, and the manager who made things difficult for him in the past is shocked with the support of banking industry. Bernard and Joe's real estate careers expand rapidly. They break the strict zoning of Los Angeles black and white segregation single-handedly. Many young and promising blacks move into white neighborhoods. Soon after, they even get received by the vice president. Several years later, in 1963, Bernard takes his family back to Texas to visit his father, Britain. After their dinner, Britain tells Bernard that he is proud of his accomplishments. The next day, Bernard walks around town with his son. Before they know it, they are standing in front of the bank where Bernard worked as a shoe shiner. At that time, Texas was the most racist place in America. They meet a young boy shining shoes just like Bernard used to when he was little. To Bernard's surprise, the boy will only work on the shoes of white people. This little incident touches Bernard and awakens his sense of responsibility to his fellow men. He makes up his mind that he must change the status quo and help the black community in his hometown to get better housing. The next day, Bernard visits Joe and tells him that they should buy the mainland bank in Texas. Joe thinks that Bernard is out of his mind for even thinking about it because the racism in Texas is so severe, but Bernard manages to show compelling reasons to make the purchase. In the end, Joe agrees to help Bernard. They recruit Matt again and use him to be their frontman once more. They meet with the bank owner, Robert Florence Sr. and Jr. to discuss the numbers. Despite Florence Jr.'s suspicions, Sr. sells the bank to Matt and his partners. With the mainland bank acquired, Bernard gets to work and starts helping the African Americans in town to get approved for loans. It would seem that Bernard's goal is to help his fellow men get a fair chance at housing and even money-making opportunities. Things go well for a time until Florence Jr. starts investigating the loans that the bank approves. One day, Florence follows Matt and meets up with Bernard and Joe. He confronts them about the loans they approved and threatens them with a letter from US Treasury Department. He says that the department will inspect the bank's operations in 1 month. As Florence Jr. leaves, the guys discuss their next move. During that time, Matt comes up with a suggestion. He suggests that they should buy another bank and transfer the problem loans from mainland bank to that bank. They had Bank of Marlon Moore in their mind, and Bernard says that main problem is overseeing the operations of the bank. In response, Matt suggests that he should be allowed to run the new bank. Bernard expresses his discomfort with the idea, but he eventually settles with letting Eunice keep an eye on Matt. In the end, Matt gets to run his own bank just like he wanted. The next day, Matt meets up with the lawyer and starts signing loan contracts on his signal. Sometime later, Matt receives a call from Florence Jr. regarding clients that want to withdraw all their money from mainland. To make matters worse, a federal examiner arrives at Marlin to help Matt. Bernard forces him to dress up as a janitor so he can get close during the meeting. Unfortunately, it doesn't make a difference since the examiner discovers a critical problem on several loans. Bernard is in disbelief that the absurd loans got approved. Eventually, they learned that it was Florence Jr.'s doing all along. It turns out that while rushing to run his own bank, Matt skipped protocols and used a lawyer that Florence recommended. Through that, Florence was able to sneak in problematic loans. Sometime later, Bernard and Joe tells Matt that the most rational move they can make is to walk away from the Bank of Marlin. Unwilling to let his bank go, Matt makes a move without letting his partners know. Joe learns about his move the next day and rushes to mainland with Bernard. They confront Matt about the loans while Florence watches the spectacle with a proud look on his face. Bernard tells Matt to get the books, but it is too late. The federal bank examiners arrive to revoke Mainland Bank's license to operate. While leaving the building, FBI arrests Bernard and Joe. Sometime later, Bernard and Joe meet up with their lawyer, and they learn that their case got dragged along with some racial politics in the country. Meanwhile, Matt talks with Senator McLean about testifying against his partners in exchange for his freedom. Matt contemplates his next move that night and makes a phone call. Matt follows McLean's suggestions and testifies against his partners at the Senate hearing the next day. Later that day, Bernard also meets with McLean and listens to his proposal. He gives him a choice to take an immunity deal and confirm Matt's testimonies, or Bernard can say whatever he wants and go to jail. In the end, Bernard decides to say the words that he kept in his heart for years. He talks about racial discrimination in the country. Shortly after that, both Bernard and Joe's fortunes got decimated. After hearing, the two also got sentenced to federal prison. Florence Jr. purchases the Mainland Bank for a small fraction of price paid by Bernard and Joe. Meanwhile, Matt Sr. never got charged with any crime. Several years later, Bernard and Joe get out of prison. Eunice finds it strange that the two men seem happy even after losing all their fortune. Joe reveals that they have properties next to each other in Bahamas. Eunice is in disbelief and asks Bernard how that happened. It turns out that Matt called Bernard the night before his testimony. He told about Senator's deal and apologized to him. In return, Bernard asked Matt a favor before the government could seize their assets to buy properties in Bahamas.